Hello, my spirited living family, wherever you are finding me on this day. I am facing outside right now, and spring has certainly sprung, which is so delightful. I can see the blossoms on the trees outside my window. I'm in New York City, for those of you that don't know, and I always joke, I live on the first floor, which means I can see trees and grass and all that good stuff through the bars on my window, a particular New York City kind of thing. But there's flowers growing in my garden. We've just moved through Passover. We just had Easter this past weekend. And we, in this space, one of the things the thing I've been focusing on for the last month, starting around a little bit before the spring equinox, is the theme of fertility and new growth and rebirth and renewal and all of those things that spring metaphorically brings to mind. In this space, we particularly focus on reclaiming and bringing the divine feminine back into our lives, because for millennia before the pre-Christian Judeo times, there were goddess-worshipping civilizations all over the world. And that's a whole other story. And one of the things that I love to do here is to highlight those images, those very real, and in some cases still very much honored in different parts of the world, these personifications of the divine feminine, of the goddess. And there are certainly many fertility goddesses, which we've been focusing on. And I say this almost every week. When I talk about the divine feminine, it's acknowledging that lives in all of us, regardless of your gender, just as we all include and embrace divinely positive masculine traits as well. Typically, when we speak about the divine feminine and feminine traits, the classic feminine traits, we're talking about honoring our intuition, our compassion, honoring our emotions, honoring our connection to our bodies, which is really coming up as spring is bursting around us and as we move towards the Taurus time of year, which will be next month. And then honoring our connection to nature through, particularly for women, through our cycling bodies, much like nature cycles as well. So this week, bringing all of that together and acknowledging this time post-Easter, post-Passover, there's a kind of a different slant on the spring goddesses that I want to bring to you. And today I'm focusing on Eostre. And I know if you're looking at the name and the description, you think, that looks a lot like Easter. It's actually pronounced Eostre. She was an Anglo-Saxon goddess, and of course many of these pre-Christian Judeo, alphabet civilizations, we don't necessarily have written stories of them, but she is actually one that a priest, a British priest, the Venerable Bede, they called him, talked about Eostre and acknowledged her as a goddess of the spring and of renewal and rebirth and all of those things that we've been celebrating. And he wrote these things down, I think it was like the end of the 7th, beginning of the 8th centuries. So there is actually some evidence of a goddess being worshipped. And to this day, earth-centered, goddess-worshipping folks like myself really embrace that energy. And what I would invite you to do, and I actually did this this weekend, my Unitarian Church, the Fourth Universalist Society, which many of you know is where I host in normal times, which we're slowly getting back to. I host my New Moon Circles there. And we've been doing our Sunday services virtually for the last year. And I gave one of the talks, sermons, well, not really a sermon, it was a reflection. And in that, I talked about the energy of and how we can embrace Easter, and you can tell where the name Easter most likely came from if you look at the spelling of Eostre's name, and how do we embrace that even if you're not Christian and don't embrace the notion of Jesus resurrecting and regardless of your belief system, your religious belief system, the metaphors that have to do with rising up, with pulling out of and this is what I talked about in my reflection on Sunday. I'll put a link to it here too, but got a lot of really, surprisingly, a lot of really wonderful feedback about it. Thinking about if there are any dreams that you buried, either from your childhood or certainly from the last year, if there are memories that have just been too painful to put aside, that you compartmentalize, that you've put away in your tomb, to bring in the metaphorical story of Christ and the tomb, or anything that you've sublimated, that you've kept in the dark. In the other meditations that I've led around this have been about planting seeds and new growth and nurturing, growth and whatever it is that we want, our possibilities, our intentions to fruition. What I would invite you to do with this energy, with Eostre's help, is to visit some of those memories, dreams, intentions, anything that you've buried, and to use the blooming of the spring to shine light, to shine the light on those, and to bring them out into the light and into full consciousness, so that they can begin to heal. And that's what happens particularly with really difficult memories or experiences, that once we begin to talk about them and express all of our feelings around them, then we can begin to heal from them. I've seen that in the work that I've done with the Fourth U Artivists, which supports women supports organizations who work to end violence against women. I saw it in the show that we just did about reproductive justice and telling women's stories of their abortions. So many women, several women in the cast, talked about their own experiences, at our cast party, and what it means to begin to express it, things that they hadn't talked about before. So that's another angle of the rebirth renewal energy that we're working with this time of year. Yes, it's planting new seeds for new experiences, for new projects, for new things coming, to bloom. But it's also about rebirthing, renewal. It's also about going deep and bringing those things up that you may have hidden, for some reason or another. So I invite you to take some time in the next couple days and think about that. And they literally can be, as we begin to move, please Goddess, out of the pandemic. Yes, it can be over the last year, but look over your lifetime as well. And just to give you a nice little visual, this is Eostre, and she's very Anglo-Saxon looking with her blonde and all that. But she's got a unicorn next to her. I don't really think they had unicorns, but you never know. But she's holding a hare, a rabbit, and an egg. And the story with her is that she discovered as winter was ending, a hare who was dying. And she took the hare into her arms and transformed it into a bird. No, sorry, other way around. She saw a bird that was dying, and she transformed it into a hare, and then it was able to live. And even though it was a hare, it still continued to lay eggs like the bird. Hence, we have Easter bunnies and Easter eggs. So that's a little bit of background about Easter. Last thought before I just share this very sweet Eostre chant that I found. Easter itself, if you didn't know, and I talk about this in this reflection that I did at our Easter service on Sunday, is actually a moon-related holiday. It was, I may have mentioned this last week too, it still is, designated to be the first Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox. So I loved it when I found that out, that it not only is it tied to the cycles of nature, it's tied to, the moon cycle too. So, all little bits of everything to kind of entertain and enlighten you, I hope, around the last of the fertility goddesses that I'll be focusing on right now. And the chant that I'll leave you with, let's see if I can remember it. Let's see if I can remember the tune. Eostre, Eostre, arise. Come, lady, come. The earth is growing green again. Come, lady, come. Eostre, arise. Come, lady, come. The earth is growing green again. Come, lady, come. Eostre, arise. Come, lady, come. The earth is growing green again. Come, lady, come. Isn't that sweet? Doesn't that feel like you could be dancing around in the meadows with that? So I invite you to sing that whenever it strikes you, to welcome back the spring, to honor Eostre and her energy and her egg-bearing hair, and spend some time going within, going to your own inner space, and really reflecting on what are those dreams or memories or wishes that you have buried that you can now bring to light. Thank you for being with me, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now. Namaste.